Hey y'all, Jen here from PepperHarrow Farm. Today we're going to talk about seed starting for sweet peas. I'm going to give you some of my tips and tricks for growing sweet peas successfully. And we'll also talk about some of the varieties that we grow here at PepperHarrow. If you're like me, you've tried to grow sweet peas in the past and you may have given up. Adam can definitely tell y'all that I almost gave up on sweet peas, and I publicly stated that I was going to give up on sweet peas. Luckily, I figured out a few little tips and tricks to become successful at growing them, and I'm going to share all of those things with you here today. The first thing you need to do is soak your sweet peas in water. So I'm going to take this packet and I'm going to dump it here into my little glass of water, and I'm going to let them soak for about 24 hours. While you're waiting for your sweet peas to soak in the water, you'll notice that there may be some that float on the top. If there are some seeds that float on the top, usually that means that the seed is not viable. Either way, I usually just take all of my seeds and end up planting them. After my seeds have soaked for the 24-hour period, I'm going to drain off the water and take my seeds and pot them up. We use a 72 cell tray, so I'm going to take this tray, fill it with seed starting soil, and pop my seeds in, and I'll show you how I do this. If you're a home gardener, you can use things such as milk cartons or little seed starting pots. You don't have to do it in volume. You can use whatever you have available to do this process. I always make sure to wet my seed starting soil before I plant my seeds inside. The first thing I do is place a seed on top of each cell. I just let it sit there, and then I'm going to come back in and push it about halfway down into the cell, so about a half an inch deep. My seeds are now sitting on the top and I'm ready to push them in about a half an inch. I'm just pushing them a little ways in, just enough to get them down into the seed starting soil and to make sure they begin their germination process. After they're in, I'm going to gently cover, or I'm going to use water. As I'm watering, I usually have that cover up the top of the seed. So a really good watering will actually cover these up automatically. You don't have to go in and recover them up with your finger. Okay, for sweet peas, it says that they have to have dark to germinate. And I haven't found that that's always the case, but I definitely don't give them any extra light. So I'm going to take my little seed pack here and I'm just going to stick it kind of under all of my little seed starting racks and not give them any direct sunlight, but just kind of put them in an area that doesn't get a ton of light, but it's also not completely dark either. At this point, my sweet peas are ready to get pinched. And you'll notice like they look really floppy. They definitely need something to trellis them. So at this point, the pinching process, I'm just going to come into each one of these plants, and you can do it with your finger or you can do it with a pair of snips, but you're basically just going to pinch the top of the growth off. And here's the little plant that I did that to. You can see it here. I'm going to pinch it, and this is going to promote branching, and it's going to also make a stronger plant. So for each of these, I'm going to come in and pinch and make sure that I take all of this extra growth off to help promote the strength of these plants. They're going to get stronger, they're going to grow a lot better. Okay, if you read the seed packet, like the seeds that we just started today are from Botanical Interests. If you read the seed packet, it tells you to start these 4 to 5 weeks before last frost. For me, I never follow the seed packet, and here's why. If you're like me, you have tried sweet peas in the past and it has not been successful because of that reason. If you wait to start sweet peas 4 to 5 weeks before your last frost, that's not enough time to get them established before heat sets in. And for our growing zone here in 5B in central Iowa, it gets hot really, really quickly in the spring, and they don't have enough time to really grow and thrive. So for me, the trick is to start your seeds about 90 to 95 days before your last frost date. So for me here in central Iowa in zone 5B, our last frost date is May 15th. I started these seeds on or around like January 18th or something like that. So mid to end of January. This is the plants that I have now. You can see how great they look. We're now mid-February, right after Valentine's Day, and you can see how they're thriving and looking amazing. So around this time, I started the pinching process. The next thing I'm going to do is plant these out. I'm going to harden them off first, kind of transition them out into a cold frame, gradually getting them used to some of the outdoor growing conditions. And then I'm going to plan on planting these in 2 weeks, so on or around March 1st. The next thing we'll talk about is how I do the growing process once I've planted them out, because it's really going to be cold and a rough environment out there. And I think what you're going to find is these little beauties can take a little bit of tough growing conditions. When I plant my sweet peas out in the ground on or around March 1st, I'm gonna make sure they're hardened off like you guys heard me say. I'm not gonna bury them too deep. I'm just gonna make sure that their root systems are nice and in the ground. The other thing I'm gonna do, and this is critical, is I'm gonna make sure that they're nice and covered up. I want to make sure that if there are going to be extremely freezing temperatures coming, that I give them a little bit of a frost cover. We use Agribon, and for you home gardeners out there, you can actually use a sheet, which a lot of people have used. We'll show you a little clip of how we actually cover with our Agribon on our sweet peas. It does get a little bit tricky with the trellis, but it does not need to be fancy. It just needs to be enough to be able to cover up your plants so they don't frost and totally die off. But as you all may know, sweet peas like a lot of cold. They can withstand a lot of those freezing temperatures. So even if it drops below the freezing point, they're still going to thrive and look amazing. You're just, at this point, when they're out there, you're just trying to give them a little bit of protection from the cold. But this is a covering and uncovering process. So if you have days that are well above freezing, you're going to want to make sure that frost cover is completely off so that they have a chance to get sun exposure and plenty of time to grow and thrive. We're still mid-February, but the ground is workable, so I popped the trellis in for my sweet peas. I still need to prepare the ground. You can see I haven't tilled it. I haven't done anything with it. I'm probably not going to till it. I'm just going to give it the soil a really good workover and eliminate some of those grasses and things that are in there. And I'm going to plant these sweet peas into the soil that you see right here, and I'm going to get them growing. I'm out here by my trellis, and the last tip that I have to be successful with growing sweet peas is plant your trellis here under a small tree where your sweet peas can get a little bit of afternoon shade. That is key to making sure they're going to be successful, and that you keep them cool enough that they're going to keep producing flowers. After the tornado that we experienced last year, we lost our little tree that we plant them under, but you can see I have a new oak tree coming in, which is just perfect. It's not too big. It's smaller in size, but it's going to give my sweet peas some nice afternoon shade. So what kind of seeds do I like to grow for sweet peas? I know you are wondering, but you probably saw my tags. I'm growing a couple different varieties from Farmer Bailey. Farmer Bailey grows amazing sweet peas. So the two that I have from him are Charlie's Angel and, oh gosh, I can't remember the other one. Let me look. Francis Kate. I wanted King Crimson or Crimson King, and I could not get a hold of it. If you're after it, don't buy it. I want some more. There's a lot that I wasn't able to get my hands on because they're so incredibly popular, but that is a great place to be able to find some sweet pea seeds. You can actually find them anywhere. There's lots of great suppliers of sweet pea seeds. You saw today that we started Botanical Interests, what was it, High Fragrance Mix. It's just a white sweet pea, but the fragrance is incredible. I absolutely love to start those. Another great spot that I order from is Renee's Garden. Renee's has a ton of amazing seeds that I usually start some every single year. Aside from these, I usually do a second round, and I'll usually use Renee's for that. I hope you all enjoyed today's video on how to successfully start sweet peas from seed, and hopefully you got a few little tips and tricks for how to become more successful with growing sweet peas. And if anything, I hope it just made y'all feel a little bit more confident with being able to try them out. If y'all liked today's video, please like and subscribe. And as always, we want to thank all of our Patreon members for supporting us in our little flower farming operation. Thank you all so much. Thanks for joining for today's video. And as always, happy growing.